What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. Well, the conundrum has turned into a full-blown problem. It is a problem right now for the Cardinals. What do you do with the quarterback situation? Because now we're 3 games into Brissett taking over as Murray was out again last night, and they're able to finally snap their losing streak. They pick up a win against the Cowboys. And for the third consecutive game, the offense looked better with Brissett in there. He looked comfortable. The team looked better. And they finally are able to get a win and to somehow kind of keep their season alive. You lose that game, you fall to 2-6, and you're completely cooked at that point. But they're somewhat alive. And I want to go over a little bit of the numbers now, because 3 games is no small sample size. You finally have gotten a chance to kind of really see where this kind of could go. And he had 5 games with Murray to start out the year. So you can compare it a little bit at this point. And it's not great for Murray. Spoiler alert. And so now it turns into, like, what do you do? Because Murray is making so much money. Do you bench your high-paid star quarterback in this situation? If he's healthy and he's ready to come back, we're teetering on that. And it feels like the team is better with Brissett, but money talks. So in the what do you think the 3 games are this year with the most passing yards for the Cardinals? Like I said, Brissett's played 3 games. Well, number 1 would be 400. That was by Brissett. 2 would be 360. That one was by Murray. 3 was 340 by Brissett. 4 was 330 by Brissett. So 3 of the top 4 games were by Jacoby. Okay. Well, what's that equate to? Brissett now in his 3 games is averaging 356 yards passing. Now, in the league, that would be good for 10th best in the league, so top 10. In Murray's 5 games, he was averaging 288 yards passing. So 70 yards less, somewhere around there. That would be 24th best in the league or 6th worst in the league. Not great. Okay, well, that's just one stat. What about points per game? What's it actually equating to? Well, 100% now in 3 games. And remember, he's actually played against some pretty good competition. He played against the Colts, who look like they're one of the top teams in the league. I know they just did get roughed up this past weekend against the Steelers, but they're still, 6-2 now, something like that. And their offense is very potent, opportunistic on defense. And they played against the Packers, and that was finally like the first game where Michael Parsons kind of went crazy. But in the 3 games that he has been the starter, they've averaged 28.3 points per game. That would be 6th best in the league if that were for across the season. In the 5 games that Murray played, 20.6. Almost 8 points less per game. That would be 22nd in the league. Outside the top 20 in both total yards and points. Inside the top 10 in total yards and points when it's Brissett. Significant difference. Okay, so only 1 win for Brissett. 2 for Murray. That did come against the Saints and the Panthers, which is the other half of this, too. It's not like Murray was playing against the best teams in the world when he was out there. He did have the Saints, Panthers, and Titans. 3 probably the worst teams in the league. And if you don't want to include the Cardinals right now in that conversation, but pretty close. You also got to remember, he had a healthy James Conner. He actually had some running backs to work with at that point, and it was still this rough. The other half is some of these pieces look a little bit better all of a sudden, don't they? With Brissett out there, it's weird. All of a sudden, Marvin Harris Jr. looks like a guy that deserved to be a first round draft pick, a high first round draft pick. 7 catches last night, 96 yards, and that route he ran on that touchdown sure looked like the most confident thing he's done in a while. I think that's been the number one thing about him that everyone would criticize, is that he has looked unsure of himself and unconfident. And part of that is because I think in the style that Murray plays at quarterback, you're not quite sure if he's going to throw it or run it. You're running routes, not really knowing on the same page of what's going to happen on a play-to-play thing. Now, that creates some electric moments for Murray, and that's been his career. It also creates a lot of flat misplays and a lot of wasted time and wasted plays, plain and simple. Brissett is so much more of this stereotypical pocket passer quarterback that's just going to make things happen. But again, he ain't getting paid all that much. Murray's getting paid a lot. And he's still got a couple years left on that contract. And so I don't know what you do at this point. I have continued to say, like, you've got to go back with Murray, because if the thought process of if he does get hot and lead the team to the playoffs, then you look smart and it's the right decision. And if he ends up stinking up the joint, you have, really good grounds to move on and kind of forget about him. But there's one other piece to this that I think is going to be a factor. Cannon's on the hot seat. Whether he wants to kind of admit it or not, I know he was such a hot name when they originally went out and got him, and their questionable means that kind of got them in a little bit of trouble in the hiring process. But it hasn't worked out great. This was a team that a lot of people thought were going to be a playoff type team, and they've had so many one score losses this year. But they're in a serious bind. It does not look like they're going to the playoffs, but they're still alive. But he's got to win games now. He's got to make a decision for himself, not necessarily what is going to look great for this franchise or find the answers and stuff like that, but he's got to decide what is going to win me the games right now, because I need to keep this job. And at 3-5, you got to find a way to win some games in a hurry, because playoffs, the standings are starting to slip away from you. If you're going to have any shot at this, like, it's got to be go time now. You are in last place in your division, and the 3 teams in front of you all got 6 wins. They're all basically 3 games up on you. Not ideal. And it's a really tough spot to be in. Murray's going to get healthy at some point, and you got to decide if you're going to go back to him. And if you are, is it because you think he gives you the best reason or the best chance to win? Or is it because there's a lot of extra zeros on his paycheck and you don't want to have to sit that guy on the bench and watch as Brissett goes out there and plays? It's a tough look both all the way around, and it's not the spot that you want to be in. But Murray's making $43 million this year. Like, something's got to give on that. Like, that's a lot of money if you're not going to play the guy. Brissett's only going to go ahead and make $5 million this year. You're talking almost $40 million less. $40 million sitting on the bench is even for owners, even for the amount of money that these guys have, that's a lot of money to just be chilling. And I tell you what, if you win games and you start selling more tickets, you can swallow that money a little bit easier. But they're in a tough spot because Murray is going to get healthy at some point. What do you do? what do you do? Brissett has been really, really solid. He was really good last night. 6 touchdowns now, just 1 pick, 860 yards passing. He's been good. He's been good. In contrast, in his 5 games, Murray only had 6 touchdown passes. He had 3 picks. He only had 862 yards passing in 5 games. It's just the offense, whether or not he's a better quarterback, I don't even think is the question anymore. It is the team better with him out there? Doesn't look like it. The numbers say no. So are you trying to win right now or not? It literally just comes down to, are you trying to win games if you're the Cardinals, or are you trying to figure out if Kyler Murray is your guy? And if we're at this stage in his career, for as long as he's been in the league, and you still don't know if he's your quarterback, you know he's not your quarterback. You're just trying to find more reasons to feel comfortable about moving off of him. But we are now in year 7. And if you don't know, 7 years. It's not great. It's not great. So I've been pushing from the beginning that you go back to him and then you can have your answer. But Cannon's fighting for his job. He's got to decide. And I think they know what their ceiling is with Kyler Murray. And it's maybe on a good year make the playoffs, and then that's it. I don't know if it's much higher with Brissett. The quarterback of the future for the Cardinals, I don't think is on this roster. I think that's the plain and simple of it. And so if that's the case, either try and tank and go out and find your quarterback in the draft next year. No one's really looked great. Or go out and try and win games right now. I think I've come around to saying we've had enough of a sample size that you got to stay with Brissett. There's no stat line that makes sense as to why you go back to Murray other than a pay sheet. That's where it is. It's tough. They now are going to have to try and figure out, where to go from here. The good news is you have a little bit of time as you kind of go into when you look at the schedule, the fact that now you think Murray is still a little bit banged up. He didn't, obviously get ready to go, but I don't know if they'd want to bring him back for Seattle, which is up next. So you think maybe you have another week to try to figure it out? If that game goes your way with Brissett, then it becomes a lot easier of an answer. But he had the entire bye week and he wasn't ready to go against the Cowboys, who most quarterbacks, they're going to find some help in them to play the Cowboys defense because it's not great. But you're looking at a stretch where you got Seattle and San Francisco coming up next. And then Jacksonville, who looks better at home, but that one you get in Arizona. And then Tampa Bay and the Rams. I mean, you're talking 4 of the next 5 are gut punch type games. And the season's either going to be over after that next month, or you're going to find some resolve to make a push at this thing. I think you got to stay with Brissett. I think you got to do it. They got no running game to speak of, and yet he's keeping this offense going and moving and viable. And no one seems to be galvanized by Kyler Murray on this team. Not a lot of people coming and shouting that they need him back and want him back. I don't know. I think you have to stick with Brissett at this point. I've come full circle on it. The team just looks so much better with him out there. Whether you think he's a legit, top 10 quarterback or not, the offense has been top 10 with him out there. It's a weird year. Daniel Jones is leading the best offense. Baker Mayfield might be an MVP type candidate. It's a strange year. Maybe this is a year where Brissett turns them into a top 10 offense. But it's not that with Murray, so we'll see. Tough decisions right now in Arizona.